All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council work study session in the Harry E. Mitchell Government Center. Item number 1 is call to order. Members of the public who attend the meeting physically are asked to maintain distance between other parties, and masks are optional for all attendees per City of Tempe policy. Alternatively, members of the public may attend the meeting virtually through Cisco WebEx events by visiting tempe.gov/councilmeetinginfo for more information. Council meetings can also be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/channel 11. Since I was talking about the virtual option as well, I should note that Councilmember Chin will be joining us virtually this evening, just to let everybody know. Item number 2 is call to the audience. The City Council welcomes public comment at this time for the issue review session and committee of the whole items on this work study session agenda. There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Right now, I've got 1 speaker card, and I'll see if there's any others after that, but the speaker I have is Robert Moore. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
This might be a little clunky, I'm sorry.
It's good to see you.
Robert Moore, Tempe, Arizona. I'll see about the 3 minutes. I'll do my best. It goes without saying that Tempe's local live music scene stands as a pillar of our community identity. I wanted to thank Councilperson Navarro for his commitment to live music over the years and sincerely appreciate the Community Development Department looking into opportunities to make entertainment permitting more accessible. Following the significant impact of COVID has had on our small business community, including those businesses that support live music in particular, it seems like a clear opportunity to permanently open more doors to support our local cultural growth. Now, it's simply to mitigate some of the setbacks from recent years, but make our community a safer and more diverse place for musicians to explore their talents and grow professionally. Interestingly, culture-forward cities such as Austin, Texas do not have blanket entertainment permit systems. Instead of gatekeeping businesses that want to host and support live music, dance, and poetry readings, they focus on sound amplification and its impact on the surrounding environment, making it easier for small businesses to support local live music and other creative expression. While many associate our 1990s music renaissance with downtown Tempe, this is only partly true. Many of these same musicians started their journeys in random suburban garages, then a corner stool inside a local neighborhood business establishment, possibly migrating to a small stage at a local bar, with some even rising to arenas in the national airwaves. But the point is that live music artists start their journey in our neighborhoods and are impacted by the number and diversity of opportunities available within these local environments. The more doors we open in our neighborhoods for local live music, the more creative expression, the healthier and sustainable our community is. Not only benefiting musicians, but ultimately feeding larger scale venues in the downtown area. This is how the ecology has always worked, and we need to recognize, respect, and nurture this system. The diversity of opportunities in our neighborhoods directly impacts the cultural success of our downtown. In 2015, our community came together and sent a clear message to the city of Tempe that it was important to prioritize local live music, followed by the community approval of our arts and culture tax. Tempe Community Services Department has taken large steps forward in the past few years under this new plan to nurture local live music, but it needs the help of our Community Development Department to more than ever to ensure that our community continues to build on this progress. As the city turns to higher density and mixed-use development solutions, we need to make sure our zoning ordinances do not undermine but support opportunities for cultural growth, creating a safe and accessible environment from the ground up that helps nurture our small business community, businesses that support live music opportunities. In terms of entertainment permitting for small businesses, we may benefit more from education and outreach than financial hurdles. Recognizing that small businesses that support our live local music as city partners, and informing them of the enhanced opportunities and connectivity that the Community Services Department now offers for musicians. Bottom line, while a short-term entertainment license fee abatement is commendable, we have a great opportunity to establish long-term solutions that benefit our community and our live local music scene for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Good to see you. All right, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council this evening? If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the agenda. Mr. Deputy City Attorney, I'm just going to move something around really quickly in the agenda, if that's okay with you. Yes. All right, thank you. I'd like to move to item number 7, which is announcements from the mayor and/or city manager. I've got a couple of announcements this evening, but a special presentation, and I wanted to make sure that the guests who are here don't have to sit here through our entire agenda to hear the presentation. So I know Councilmember Hodge and I were very close to Mel Hanna, who was really a pillar in our community, not just in the Phoenix area, but in Tempe. He did such exceptional work when it comes to education, civil rights. I told a personal story about him at our MLK breakfast this past Monday, where I talked about there was a point in time where I was out of a job and I was looking for opportunities and didn't exactly know who to turn to. So I ended up going to the Greater Phoenix Urban League when Mel was working there. And for a person of his stature in the community, I didn't expect for him to spend as much personal time with me as he did. But the reality is he didn't just simply say, here's a list of jobs that you can take a look at and feel free to email people and see what happens or something. He literally sat with me for not hours, but days. Whenever I would come back down to go through certain job applications or job postings so I could ask his opinion on things. He volunteered to be a reference for me, and he volunteered to make calls on my behalf. This is before I was an elected official. I was not mayor of the city of Tempe. I was not a council member. I was just simply a person in the community looking for gainful employment. And this man, who was such a pillar of our community, spent that kind of time with me, which just said so much about him. But I know he didn't just simply do it for me. He frankly did it for everyone that he interacted with all the time, which is why he was such an important figure in our community. And honestly, his loss, deeply hurts me as someone who knew him so well and really admired him, and especially as someone like me sitting up here being the first African-American mayor of the city of Tempe. I could not have been in this position without people like Mel Hanna, who clearly paved the way for me to sit up here right now. So I know his family is grieving right now, but I just want to say he was a truly incredible human being and a giant in this community, and he is going to be very much missed by myself, and I know all of us sitting up here. I don't know if Councilmember Hodge, you wanted comments too, but I've got a presentation for the family afterwards, but I wanted to make sure I said that before I got to the presentation.
Yeah, I just want to say, first I want to say something to Dr. Anna Battle right there, who has been a mentor for me for my entire life. The Hodge family loves you. Some part you've been a part of our lives forever. I call him Uncle Mel because that's how I've known him since I met him when I was 16 years old, and he was actually working on a project at McClintock High School because it was a situation where there was at Huckleberry Finn, and the kids were saying, the teacher was insisting that kids read it exactly how it was, and it had the N-word in there, and they were upset about it. And Uncle Mel came in, and I was the Black Student Union president of the state, so I got involved in that too. That's how I got into it. And he was the person who was the interim between the kids, the students, this district, the teachers, everyone. And he played from that point on in my life, he's been a big part of it. He has been in education, which Mayor Woods just said. He's championed 4 of the overrides in Tempe that passed. So, in bonds, he's done so much with education. And when he calls, I listen. He was the first one to tell me, Burdetta, you need to get behind Katie Hobbs now. And I listen, and I thank him for that to this day, because he was the first one to tell me that no matter what, she's going to be sitting at a governor's office. And you know what, Uncle Mel? You are absolutely correct. So I just want to say that. I love you with all my heart. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. If the council would like to join me down to the front for the proclamation, if I could invite the family to come forward as well, that would be wonderful. So I have a proclamation here that I will read out loud. but then I will present to Mel's family. So it reads, whereas Mel Hanna was a dedicated public servant and community leader who strived to make Tempe a more diverse, inclusive, and welcoming place, all while weathering against the barbs of segregation and persevered through these difficulties through his time as a student athlete at Eastern Arizona Junior College and Northern Arizona University. And whereas Mel Hanna was the first African American elected to the Flagstaff City Council, was a member of the Coconino County Board of Supervisors, and a leader in the Arizona NAACP and the Greater Phoenix Urban League. And whereas in Tempe, Mel's actions to improve the lives of our city's youngest residents included stepping up and forming diverse committees that championed maintenance and operation overrides, as well as bond elections for the Tempe Union High School District. These efforts enabled the schools to overcome the terrible impacts of the Great Recession and ensure students excelled academically. And whereas Mel's work as the Tempe Union High School District Diversity Council Chairman positively impacted the lives of many, where he mentored minority staff, students, and teachers for years. And whereas Mel Hanna truly dedicated himself to improving the lives of the people around him through civic engagement of the community around him. Whereas the city of Tempe recognizes the amazing work of Mel Hanna and his commitment to the Tempe community, as well as Arizona as a whole, where his legacy will live on forever in the hearts of those he impacted. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the city of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare January 13th, 2023 as Mel Hanna Day, Lifetime Service Achievement Award in Tempe, Arizona.
More, 1, 2, 3. And then my turn. Sorry. So, thank you very much. All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
One other announcement I want to make as well, and then I can turn to the city manager to see if he has any announcements this evening. So this proclamation says, whereas human trafficking is a global plague that impacts millions of people each year, including tens of thousands of Americans, and whereas the United States ranks as one of the worst countries globally for human trafficking, with Arizona ranking in the top 15 states with the highest rates of human trafficking per capita. And whereas human trafficking impacts people across all demographics and ages, including teenagers and children. And whereas the battle against human trafficking includes supporting efforts in schools, churches, nonprofits, law enforcement, and businesses to prevent human trafficking, to intervene, disrupt, and dismantle human trafficking syndicates, and provide resources for and support for victims and human trafficking. And whereas the city of Tempe joins schools, churches, nonprofits, law enforcement, federal and state coalitions, and the NotInOurCity.org movement in our commitment to increase public awareness of the human trafficking epidemic that impacts our community, state, nation, and world. And whereas the city of Tempe urges all residents to work together to eliminate human trafficking from our community and support the efforts of frontline organizations and enforcement in their battle against human trafficking, and to take a stand and say, not in our city. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the city of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare January 2023 is Anti-Human Trafficking Month in Tempe, Arizona. That ends my announcements for this evening. Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. On the note of your last statement, we, as an organization, just opened up full training on human trafficking through CEASE, effective yesterday. So all city employees are able to log on and do virtual training immediately. So we're excited to see that. The only other thing I was going to mention is Alex Jovanovich is here, and he was recently promoted to Deputy Community Services Director for Parks and Recreation, overseeing our park services. Alex grew up in Tempe, attending Meyer, McCamey, and McClintock High School, Go Chargers, before graduating from ASU. He purchased his Tempe childhood home, where he lives with his wife and 2 daughters. He started his career in Tempe as a part-time temp in community services, working in several different capacities with youth and adult sports, and most recently held the Community Services Manager position, overseeing Escalante, Northside, Westside Multi-Gen centers for the past 5+ years. He holds a bachelor's degree in biology, completed the Certified Public Manager program through ASU, and recently obtained his Certified Park and Recreation Professional Certification and Lean Six Sigma Green Belt Certification. He brings a wealth of institutional knowledge and experience to this role, and we wish him well. It should also be noted that as the city continues to promote a diverse workforce and leadership team, he would be the first Korean American in this position within the city of Tempe. So congratulations to you, Alex. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. One other announcement that Kara reminded me that I forgot, so thank you for doing that. I should also announce the 2022 annual report for City of Tempe boards and commissions. Each year, the city's boards and commissions are responsible for preparing and submitting an annual report to the mayor and city council. The annual report details the membership, accomplishments, goals, attendance, and the overall work of our boards and commissions. The 7th annual 2022 Boards and Commissions Annual Report will be published to the City Council Weekly Information Packet and on the Boards and Commissions webpage tomorrow, Friday, January 13th. On behalf of the entire Tempe City Council, I would like to thank the 268 Tempe residents and community members who serve on the city's 28 boards and commissions. We are grateful to have engaged individuals willing to take time away from their own busy lives and family and friends to make a big difference in the city where they live. And with that said, that does actually this time conclude my announcements. I'll move back to item number 3, which is the issue review session. Item 3A is Tempe pre-program and funding update. And I'll look to staff to come forward. I see, Naomi Farrell and Marie Raymond.
Sorry. All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Naomi Farrell, Director of the Office of Education, Career, and Family Services. Presenting along with me this evening is Marie Raymond, Office of Education, Career, and Family Services Manager. You will also hear this afternoon from Deputy City Manager Tom Dunsing and Mark Day, Municipal Budget Director.
Use this. Yeah.
This one?
mean,
Oh, there you go.
okay.
On the agenda this afternoon, we have the overview of the Tempe Pre-program and a prioritization of Tempe Pre-supplemental in the upcoming FY 23-24 budget process.
Doesn't like me. Doesn't like me today.
Tempe Pre falls under Council Priority Quality of Life. Its primary performance measure is 3.06, Quality Pre-K Enrollment. Achieve quality early learning in Tempe children as measured by 45% of 3- and 4-year-old children enrolled in quality early learning settings across demographic categories by 2030. This is identified for acceleration and is number 8 on the START tool list. Additional related measures include 3.07, third grade reading level proficiency. Achieve a percentage of Tempe students who score highly proficient or proficient on the AZ Merit third grade English Language Arts assessment greater than or equal to statewide achievement goal of 72%. Also have 3.08, which is the high school graduation rate, which is to achieve a high school graduation rate of Tempe students who graduate in 4 years greater than or equal to the statewide goal of 90%. This is also identified for acceleration and is number 12 on the START tool list.
It's not working. Mm-mm. Yeah, thank you.
Tempe Pre has operated for 6 years in partnership with the Tempe Elementary School District to provide high-quality preschool for Tempe children. This program operates in Tempe schools with certified teachers in 11 classrooms at 7 schools with the capacity to serve up to 198 students. According to the Brookings Institution's research findings, early childhood programs that are sustained and high quality can have long-lasting impacts on children, preparing them for formal schooling and beyond, with the added factor that early education paves the way for parents to be in the workforce. Without access to high-quality pre-K, at-risk children are 25% more likely to drop out of school, 40% more likely to become a teen parent, 50% more likely to be placed in special education, 60% more likely to never attend college, and 70% more likely to become justice involved.
So this timeline shows the progression of Tempe Pre from the first discussions to today's operations. In 2015, a city council work group was formed in response to concerns city officials were hearing from our school districts that too few children were entering kindergarten with the skills they needed to be successful. So in 2016, we embarked on a feasibility study, and this 9-month-long process assessed the need for expanding access to high-quality pre-K in Tempe and identifying those barriers to access. The study found that only a third of Tempe's 3- and 4-year-olds attend preschool. It also noted that nearly 1,300 3- and 4-year-olds in Tempe live in poverty, but at the time, only 130 were in a financially sponsored preschool seat, leaving 1,100 children and families without preschool access due to financial barriers. So in March of 2017, the City Council approved the creation of Tempe Pre with a planned 20 classrooms serving 360 children as a pilot program at a cost of $3 million per year for 2 years. All families accessing the program initially met the requirements of being Tempe residents and having household incomes at or less than 200% of the federal poverty level. In 2019, the city expanded access to Tempe Pre through tuition-based opportunities for families, reducing the city's contribution to $2 million for that year in anticipation of tuition revenue to offset costs. We continue to offer seats at no cost to families and expanded options to Tempe families with household incomes between 200 to 300% of the federal poverty level, offering 50% reduced tuition. All other families are able to access the program by paying full tuition. In March of 2020, we reduced the number of classrooms from 20 to 11, now with a capacity of 198 children, as a cost-saving measure in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and anticipated revenue shortfall. This year, which is year 6 of our program, we continue to operate 11 classrooms located in 7 of our Tempe elementary schools. As of today, so slightly different from what you see on your screen, we actually have 171 children enrolled in the program and an additional 2 families currently in the registration process, putting us at an 86% capacity. We continue to honor the original intent of the program by increasing access to high-quality preschool for Tempe families. This slide shows where our classrooms were located when we originally had our 20 classrooms in 11 sites across the city, and the current location of our 11 classrooms at 7 Tempe elementary school sites. This slide shows the background characteristics of our Tempe Pre students. The pie chart on the left reflects the demographics of the Tempe population, while the one on the right reflects our Tempe Pre students. By comparison, you can see that there are more families of color accessing and qualifying for Tempe Pre services, with 89% of our participants being students of color.
We are supporting the success of Tempe Pre through braiding and blending funding. This includes leveraging federal funding from Head Start and the Department of Economic Security, and assisting in sustainability through coordinated financial assistance from several sources, while also allowing each individual funding source to maintain its identity. Additionally, within the city and the Office of Education, Career and Family Services, we are collaborating on licensing, child care assistance messaging, and administrative tasks such as program registration and applying for COVID-19 relief and grant funding. We are very appreciative of the support we receive from the communication and marketing team. This slide shows the breakdown of the funds that support Tempe Pre. So starting from top to bottom, we have the City of Tempe contribution of $1.5 million. This funds the 11 district teachers and the 19 district instructional assistants. We have 2 City of Tempe Tempe Pre employees, which is the supervisor and coordinator of that program, and then 2 citywide wage-funded instructional assistants. In addition, we have 1 city grant-funded position through child care stabilization funds. Based on current enrollment, we are projected to receive $340,000 in tuition revenue. And from the Department of Economic Security's Child Care Assistance Program, Tempe Pre is projected to receive $220,000. This amount does vary annually based on the number of families that are eligible for assistance. It is important to note that the reimbursement rate is based on the quality of the Tempe Pre program. The program receives $160,000 in Quality First incentives and scholarships. The incentives support classroom materials and other supplies, while the other funding supports 28 total scholarships. The level of funding is based on the quality of the Tempe Pre program. Additionally, we received funds from the Ramsey Social Justice Foundation for the George T. Kirk Navajo Code Talker Scholarship. The scholarship funds 1 Native American child's attendance in Tempe Pre. The program also receives $135,000 through our partnership with Maricopa County Head Start program. This funds 20 families. Lastly, Tempe Elementary School District has an estimated $676 in kind, which includes a facility use, human resource services, and other supports. How does the Tempe Pre budget break down? As you can see on this slide, the majority of the funding goes to fund teachers and supplies. $209,000 funds other city staff. $181,000 funds the before and after school care, which is provided by KidZone, and $146,706 funds operating expenses such as licensing, snacks, and marketing. This letter received from Jessica Keene demonstrates what can happen when families are supported. It speaks to the community impact of Tempe Pre from a parent's perspective. Jessica writes, "We have been blessed to be part of the Tempe Pre program since its inception. The impact of the program over the last 3 years has been profound on the overall well-being of our family. Not only has the program provided access to high-quality early childhood education for both of my daughters, it has also afforded me the opportunity to continue to advance my personal education and career. During this time period, we have seen a 44% increase in our gross annual income. This life-altering increase would not have been possible without this program. My gratitude for Tempe Pre staff and all of those that support the program cannot be put into words. Thank you for providing a program that allows our community to reach our full potential." And just to let you know, the picture is Adeline, and that is Jessica's daughter. According to the most recent parent survey, leveraging support has value for families and the economic landscape of our community. 69% of our families expressed that access to Tempe Pre improved their family's financial stability. 68% said their enrollment allowed a family member to return to work or increase their work hours. 15% reported they were able to obtain secure housing, and 12% of our caregivers returned to or enrolled in school.
Thanks to the longevity of the program, we have consistent processes and policies in place. Our program is highly regarded throughout the Tempe community and throughout the state, and this is evidenced by high program satisfaction results from families taking our survey and by the continued wait list of families wanting to access Tempe Pre. 95% of parents were satisfied with their child's growth in all areas of learning, and 93% were satisfied with the program. Tempe Pre has also benefited from external evaluations of program outcomes. The Helios Education Foundation has contracted with NORC at the University of Chicago to conduct a longitudinal evaluation of Tempe Pre, following our students from preschool into the early elementary grades and assessing their academic outcomes. This slide shows us, if you can go back, this slide shows us an early outcome of how Tempe Pre students excelled or grew at a faster rate on a more advanced early literacy skill. This skill, which is being able to sound out nonsense words, is so difficult at a preschool age that it is not assessed at the beginning of kindergarten. So our three comparison groups were our Tempe Pre students, students who attended a preschool program in Tempe Elementary that was not Tempe Pre, and then students who did not have any preschool at all. And so when they were first assessed at mid-year in kindergarten, students in all three comparison groups scored close to 0. However, by the end of the year, former Tempe Pre students had made the biggest advances in this skill. Education Forward Arizona recently recognized Tempe Pre as a North Star Award recipient at its inaugural Inspired Evening event celebrating collaboration and innovation in education. Thank you to Councilmember Keating for attending the event and for accepting the award on behalf of the City of Tempe and Tempe Pre. And pictured to the right is a full-page ad printed in the October 28th edition of the Phoenix Business Journal announcing the award winners.
I'd like to now turn the presentation over to Tom Dunsing and Mark Day for a municipal budget office update. Marie and I are happy to answer any questions you may have at the conclusion of the presentation. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Mark Day, Municipal Budget Director. Joining me is Tom Dunsing, Deputy City Manager. So we'd like to briefly review how consideration of funding for the Tempe Pre fits into the fiscal year 23-24 budget development process. So we have a timeline here. As you can see, we're in January. On the bottom part there, staff is busy working on acceleration models for those 15 performance measures that you wanted additional emphasis on, and Tempe Pre is one of those. Departments are working on their supplemental budget requests. So a supplemental is the mechanism for departments to request additional funding, either for continuation of one-time funding that may expire at the end of this year, or for new requests. The budget office is working on funding capacity. How much can we add to the budget for next year? And then we'll work on the process of prioritizing these supplementals, including acceleration strategies. And then on the top there, you can see we'll be back in February with our long-range forecast update. That is our last look at, if you will, as how much capacity we're going to have for next fiscal year. And then we start with the CIP in March. We'll be back in April with the city manager's recommended budget at a budget review session, go over the acceleration models for the operating budget. And then that's your opportunity also to look at all the supplemental funding requests and what is being recommended for funding. And then we move on into the more formal part of the budget process dictated by legislation, or the Arizona Revised Statute, with tentative budget adoption and then final budget adoption. Oh, thank you. All right. As it relates to the 23-24 general fund supplemental, so this is where the Tempe Pre potentially could be funded. Available funding for next fiscal year is significantly less than the last 2 years. So Tom is going to go over that on the next slide. Departments have been requested only to submit requests for crucial or essential needs. In the November forecast that we presented, we had projected $5 million recurring and $1 million in one-time available funding in the general fund. Economic conditions still remain a little bit uncertain in the local and national economy. We are closely monitoring our revenues. And again, we'll be back in February with an update of where we think revenues will be for next year. We are also keeping our eye on potential legislative action. So the legislature just convened this week. We know that last year there was potential to eliminate residential rental. We're assuming that may come up again. That would have a $10.7 million impact on the city's finances annually. And also we currently tax food for home consumption, so groceries bought at a grocery store. That would have a $6 million annual impact to the general fund.
So, Mayor, members of council, I'll take the last two slides. As Mark talked about earlier, the estimated amount available for supplementals is quite a bit less than the previous 2 years. And really what this slide shows is in 21-22 and 22-23, that was the recovery from the pandemic. And one of the things we saw in Tempe is our recovery was quite robust. So we were able to accommodate quite a bit of supplemental requests in the last 2 fiscal years. We're now back to what I would call more normal. And so what we're looking at, again, is $5 million available in recurring supplemental requests and $1 million in one-time. And we'll refine those numbers. We'll be back in front of the council in February with the long-range forecast to see if we're still at those marks, if there's more available or less available. So again, we'll know a little bit better when we do our February forecast. Next slide. Okay, this last slide. Real quick, a supplemental funding request will be coming for Tempe Pre. It will be for funding that expires at the end of this fiscal year to continue the program on to the next fiscal year. All supplemental requests, as Mark talked about, will be presented in April. I remind council that Tempe Pre is one of the 15 START tool priorities as identified from the council, or excuse me, by the council. We're not making budget decisions tonight, and I'll get to the council consensus we're seeking here in a minute. And lastly, as council understands, but this is more for the public, that funding for all city programs, not just supplemental, all city programs and contracts are approved on an annual basis. And that's basically when council approves the budget, typically in June. So what we're seeking feedback on the funding prioritization of Tempe Pre, and I'll ask it another way to be a little bit simpler. The district is ready to issue teacher contracts immediately, and so we are seeking council consensus to place this particular supplemental request at the top of the supplemental funding list. In other words, the highest priority for the supplemental funding list. And with that, we would feel comfortable in Tempe Elementary going ahead and issuing the teacher contracts right out of the gate. And we would be happy to answer any questions on that. And Mayor, we're looking for council consensus.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Vice Mayor Adams?
You know how I like to ask budget questions. So I have a budget question for you regarding Tempe Pre. So I know that they've gone from, it's my understanding they've gone from 11 sites to, or from 22 sites to 11 sites. And I'm just wondering if the budget has come down as a result of the closures, and if so, how much?
You want to take it?
Yes, Vice Mayor Adams, as far as how much has been appropriated to Tempe Pre?
My guess is that the budget has come down since we've closed half the sites. And so I'm
Yes.
just wondering what that number is.
It used to be, so in 1920 it was $3 million, and now we're down to like 1.9. It has a revenue offset, so the net impact right now is about 1.5 million.
Okay, so we've cut it in half then. Okay, well, I'm a huge believer in Tempe Pre, and I'll be supporting this moving forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Or when we make a decision.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question about procedure, and this may be for the audience also watching. So this started in 2017, it looks like, and it was meant to be a 2-year pilot, and now we're going on 6 years. So I guess, can someone answer for me or share what the process would be for an item, if it's in the pilot stage, to become a regular program? Who would move that to the regular budget request versus keeping it in the supplemental request queue?
Mayor, members of the council. Councilmember Chin, thank you for the question. Basically, we understand that the request coming forward in the supplemental process is for recurring funding. And recurring funding basically means that it would be a recurring or ongoing process. It wouldn't go through the supplemental process. It would be part of just our regular services, similar to police, fire, budget office, those services that are recurring. So that would be the move to that. If council approves this as a supplemental request as a recurring funding, they approve that in the June budget, then it will remain as recurring funding and it won't be a discussion in supplemental funding anymore.
And sorry, as a follow-up, when does it move from pilot to regular program status?
I will attempt to answer that question. When it would be a regular program is when it would be recurring. Council always has the discretion of adding programs or taking away programs during any budget process, any year. Nothing is guaranteed from year to year, and as the bullet point stated, it is guaranteed once council appropriates the budget, which is done in June. Everything, all the services, all the contracts are just approved 1 year at a time. And, but it would be placed as a recurring program. So it wouldn't be much discussion it wouldn't be any discussion in the supplemental process. I hope that answered your question, Councilmember Chen.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tom. Councilmember Garland?
Thank you, Mayor. About 4 years ago, I joined the Tempe Impacts Education Board, the TIE Foundation, and it's teachers and past teachers, and it's with the Tempe Elementary School District, and that's the first time that I learned a few things that I did not know before. One of them is that at that time we had a little over 500 students in the Tempe Elementary School District that were homeless, which was shocking to me to hear that number. And that's when I also really learned some of the details about the Tempe program, and at that time, even the difference that they were seeing at that time. Councilmember Chin asked the question I was going to ask. It's like, after a while, when does it stop being a pilot and we recognize what a great changes is made in the education of our students, and when do we start putting this on the budget and making this a priority for the city of Tempe? Dr. Driscoll sent in a letter for us to read, comment letter for us to read before the council meeting, and it was a very good letter about looking at the impact that this has had on the students that he sees every day. And I have to agree with him on the things that he talked about, the difference that it makes in the families alone. Being able to have your child go to school earlier so that they can go to work earlier makes a huge difference on the family. So, and I'm definitely going to be supporting this as a consensus moving forward. And I would really, really like to see this being put on the budget and just being a part of what the city of Tempe offers for our residents. And I just want to give a shout out to Jenny Norton for supporting and creating the George Kirk Scholarship for the Native American students. It was amazing that she did that and offered to do that, and I think that's been wonderful, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Councilmember Doar?
Thank you, Mayor. I got a few questions. And first off, obviously when this program started, I think me and Dave Shapiro, we were starting this whole thing, and Dave really had the push on this, to be honest with you. Great debates, because when it came down to education, it's the purview of, is that the city or is that the districts that provide this? And that was way back when. We knew that, hands down, pre-K was an impact on an individual in their performance going through grade school, high school, and all that stuff, maybe in college. We also knew that having the ability to have a child in a program gives that parent that latitude to get a job or to do whatever they need to do. And also it provides probably a mental balance, to be honest with you, within the home, which lessens a lot of the stress and things like that. So obviously over the course of years, this has just been a hands down great thing we've been doing. And I think when I brought this up from the get-go is when my kids were in pre-K was the quality of the pre-K. This had to be top quality. It could not be mediocre. It could not be middle range. It had to be top quality. And I still hope whatever benchmarks we're pushing for that. And some of the things is the teacher ratio, student teacher ratio, and how we're trending on that. And maybe those are the questions that if you guys want to care to ask or answer on that. That's one question I have. What's our student teacher ratio. Second, unless they want to go for it now, but the second will be coming into the classrooms and the locations. Are the locations adequate where they're at, or do we need to change the locations, and where are the best locations? When we look about our population is increasing, it's definitely increasing in the downtown area and surrounding, maybe from Apache or Broadway on north. Is what can we do to increase? I know one of the slides had it in more of the 85283 area where they had some classrooms or more of the classrooms in that area. Are we busing? How are we getting the transportation piece, coordinating with getting those pre-Kers to those classes? So that's another question. The additional question, I'm not done with you yet, well, hold up here. No, is Tempe schools, are they doing a pre-K program, and are we competing with them? Another question, just hang on to that one. And then for you, Tom. So, yeah, I know that we've talked about this on the cost, and when we started this program, we had it funded for 2 years, 3 years, to be honest with you, just to see the difference, and obviously we hands down made a difference. So it comes to the debate on where the money will come from. How will we fund this money? And the question with that also be is, are we anticipating a population increase? I'm kind of seeing a population decrease in the program, and what are we trending? Are we losing kids to something else? Whatever that may be. I love the stages of having free, half, full pay if you're qualified for whatever area you are. And with that said, if we are trending up to increase, how do we account for that budgeting? Because if we trend up with kids getting, and we talk about 500 kids, homeless kids, whatever it may be, how do we anticipate this so we know where we're going to be the following year? The other thing, hopefully the last thing, is the tracking and the mechanism. Obviously, I'd like to have 20 years of this, because then you can really get a good gauge of where people have been, maybe 24 years. And are we tracking students and where their performance are within other schools that they attend after pre-K? Do we have the ability to do that? I think that's huge, in my opinion, and it tells a real story. So those are my questions that I have, and I don't know if you want to take those and how, whatever.
Mayor, members of council, I'll answer your budget question first and then get out of the way and let the experts talk. For the funding of the program, it will come forward as a supplemental request and be on the list. If council gives us consensus to do so, we will put it right at the top of the list. We don't know how much is going to be available. We'll know better in February when we do the forecast. And then when we come back and we discuss the supplementals in April, we'll be able to nail it down. Whether or not, the appetite is to do one time again like we've been doing, or to make it a recurring program. We won't really know until we get further in the process, but really this places at the top of the priority, which really tells us it is a council priority to fund for next year. And then we can have the discussion on how we deal with that permanently, or if we continue as a pilot for a year, 7 or 8, and have that funding discussion probably closer to April.
So the other thing I want to consider, and this is for the council, is I know that when we go through development agreements, we often don't want to hold the school harmless with X amount of money that developers have to pay. I think there's a need to really explore that money that we say we're going to give back to the schools, but also maybe giving a portion of that to pre-K to continue the funding of that program too, to help offset. My worry is obviously we're doing great right now, and I've experienced the downturns of a lot of the city. This is a program that could be on the chopping blocks when push comes to shove, and how do we maintain it, or the longevity of it? What other financial avenues do we have to consider? I think this council needs to consider that, or future councils do too. But I'll let the other ones answer the following questions.
Thank you.
answer the question on ratio, we would agree that the ratios are very important as far as when it comes to quality, along with having certified teachers in our program. From the beginning of the program, we have 18 children in each of the classrooms, and with 2 teachers, so we have a 1-to-9 ratio. As far as locations, we're seeing the same thing that you're seeing as well. We want to make sure our locations are spread out so it is accessible to all, have that opportunity. So we are actually in conversations with the district now to look at where our preschool programs are located and if we need to do some shifting to meet that need.
So in regards to other preschool programs in the Tempe Elementary School District, so Tempe Elementary has a preschool program for children with special needs, and so they serve that very specific population, and so that's not in competition with Tempe Pre. They also have a TOTS program, which is a half-day program, so that does provide another option for families. Our Tempe Pre program is a full-day program, and so some families do prefer that half-day option, and so again, that's not in competition with Tempe Pre, it's just another resource for families. And in regards to tracking students, currently with the evaluation that we presented on that slide with the Helios Education Foundation is funding, so we are currently tracking cohorts of children into the early elementary grades, and through our data share agreement with Tempe Elementary, we can continue to assess where our Tempe pre-students are, so we're currently collecting data on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just feedback on that. I think if there is an opportunity, which I really would enjoy, is the ratio even to come down even further. Just to have that span of control, especially with the young ones at that age. I don't know what other opportunities we have in, student-teacher programs that can help out, with that. But I know ASU, that was the premise of their pre-K, and that's why it was so sought after. It was a 4-to-1 ratio almost, and their ability to do X, Y, and Z and trips and stuff right there at ASU. If you can only imagine. But that's my level of where I want to be at, so to speak, down the road, because I think that this is a program that right now separates us from anybody to provide something that no other city does. But at the end of the day, it should be the premier of the program, so that people who can pay this program, they're really getting their money's worth for sure. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Hodge?
Okay, I'm going to address you, Councilmember Navarro. Well, one thing, I visited the preschools. I only have 2 more left. And if you were to go there, you would see that it's premier. And with the 9-to-1 ratio, even though it may not be 4-to-1, it's phenomenal, because when they get to kindergarten, it's not going to be a 4-to-1 ratio. So they need to start to learn what it means to be in a classroom. And the way those teachers are with those kids in those classrooms, you would think that it was 4-to-1. So I would advise you to go out and take a look at it, because we run it blew me away. So I wanted to say that to you. And the fact that the information that they gather in preschool, we have a system that goes through the middle schools to the high school. Now it's actually all connected up to high school. So Tempe is very unique in how the education is. And because it's in Tempe L, and Tempe Union, Tempe L all work together, it's actually following these kids all the way up. It's going to follow them all the way up through K through 12th grade. So I just want to tell you that part.
And to your point, it's been a few years since I visited one, and thank you for saying that. I guess I want to raise the bar, because when you win a championship, you just can't sit there.
Oh no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but I just want to say
it's no knock to the program. Believe me, it's
I'm
a
saying
great program.
we are in the lead. Those classrooms blew me away, and the way the teachers teach and how it's being presented. I was sitting there at awe throughout the whole time, and I just went, what was it, 2 days ago? Yesterday? Tuesday. So I have 2 more, and I will have hit all of them. And I didn't just hit our schools, I hit Mesa's and Chandler's just to see the difference. And if you were to see it, Tempe is blowing all of them away. And I will say that on on television, that we are blowing them away. It's just a phenomenal program. I am so happy to support it. I mean, I can see with the with the process and the progress. I know some of the kids have went through it in the last 6 years. They're now going towards high school. And I'm just excited to see what's going to happen next. And I'm a full 100% support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. Councilmember Keating.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. As always, it's good to see you guys do great work on this program. This program is one that is very close to my heart. It was probably the first really controversial vote I took on council. And I had to call in from a casino in Las Vegas to join Councilmember Shapira, Councilmember Kuby, Councilmember Granville to be the fourth vote to originally approve this program. And let me tell you, as a new council member calling in on vacation on a controversial item, it was quite stressful. So I couldn't be more pleased with how far along this program has come and how it's grown, and the results clearly speak for themselves. So I will be supporting this tonight, and I do share my colleagues' concerns about making it a permanent fixture of our budget. I know that's something that me and Councilmember Hodge are looking at. I've made no secret about my intentions to put this question to the voters at some point before the next city council election. Not only do I want to maintain what we have, I want to at least put it back to what it was when Councilmember Shapira and Councilmember Kuby envisioned it in 2016. So, that would be the minimum bar for me as far as this program moves forward. But I think here in Tempe, we could probably do something a little bit more ambitious, as we like to do here in the city. So, thank you again for what you've done. It wouldn't have gotten this far without your guys' expertise and your guys' commitment to the program. I accepted the North Star Award, but I didn't win the North Star Award. You two did, and I'm not going to give it to you. I'll say that. but if you ever want to come take a picture with it or see it, it does have a good home. Look, again, I guess I can speak for hours about the benefits of this program, the secondary and tertiary economic benefits, the impacts on families. It is safe to say, and this will come to no surprise to council members Shapira and Kuby, that I was skeptical at first. And it's one of those things that not only is it good to admit when you're wrong on a politician, it's good to be happy that you were wrong in this instance, because this program is one of the shining examples of the good work that we do here in the city of Tempe. So go forth. Sounds like you're going to have your consensus here, and we will be working together, as you know, at the very minimum, making Tempe Pre a permanent fixture of the city, regardless of economic conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Keating. Vice Mayor Adams.
Just real quick, I was looking at the numbers and I know that they've gone down. I'm just wondering, is our population aging in Tempe? I know it's expensive to move here as a young parent and things. And I'm just wondering if you guys have looked at that as far as regarding our numbers.
The numbers as far as the 86% enrollment right now, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, and just in relation to our population, I'm just wondering if young parents aren't moving into our city because of our housing prices.
I haven't specifically researched that.
Okay.
But I know in talks with the school district, that's always, the question, looking at having families move into the district and supporting the school. And our schools is a core of our community, right? So.
Sure, exactly. Yes, yeah, it's just, and I have been to Tempe Pre, and it is amazing to watch them. The kids, they learn how to line up. They hit kindergarten really far ahead of the other kids because they've been socialized and learned so much during their pre-experience, and they are cute. I mean, it's really an amazing program, and in fact, I need to go back out again because that's a really feel good, and they just brighten your day. So I think Councilmember Hodge might have an answer for me.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I do. We are declining in pre-K, kindergarten, all the way. It looks like we're gonna be on a downfall for the next 5 years. So we may see fluctuation with our pre-K. We are, because we just had a report on it beginning of November in Tempe Union, and it is on the decline.
Okay, so that's great information. Thank you for helping me, Councilmember Hodge. And I just would just be, if we keep, going down that, we just keeping an eye on our budget.
Sure.
If we do go down more, sounds like we're going to. So, all right, that's all I ask, and I can't wait to make this a permanent fixture.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Just very quick thing. So it sounds like staff, you have your consensus to move forward. I was just going to echo one quick comment that a lot of other council members made, which was sort of talking about what a long-term funding solution could be. Because I think, for me, I've been here about 2.5 years now as mayor, and I think we've already had this conversation 2 or 3 times since I've been mayor. And I understand that's because when the program was initially started, it was more or less started with one-time money. And I definitely hear what council members are saying regarding the impact this program has had on our schools and our children. And so I definitely echo their sentiments about trying to find a way in which the program could be made permanent in a way where I know finance staff is not having to come back every year saying, how do we get a bridge to the next year? How do we communicate that to the school districts? And I'm open to kind of all funding solutions, whether they're more traditional or sort of less traditional. So as an example, whether it's something about, restructuring the budget in some way, as Councilmember Keating talked about, putting the question to the voters at some point, or whether there's an opportunity to go outside to other nonprofits or the federal government to look for additional funding streams that aren't necessarily from our residents or taxpayers, or shifting around money in our own existing budget. I'm open to all of those solutions, and I know that council members Keating and Hodge are, working diligently in their community on trying to bring back some of those options to the council. So that's sort of my only statement, I guess, but it sounds like you have consensus to move forward, and just wanted to make that point about long-term funding. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item here, item 3B, live music process for businesses, and that is Ryan LeVake.
Good evening, Council, City Council members. Ryan LeVake, Deputy Director in the Community Development Department. Going to a quick presentation on live music process for businesses. Live music, under the definition of the Zoning Development Code, falls under the entertainment category in our code. And entertainment land uses require a use permit process in most commercial and industrial zoning districts. Have some example districts here on the slide. There's also zoning districts that allow live entertainment by right. The RCC district, MU3, MU4, and MUED districts. RCC zoning, for example, is your Arizona Mills Mall, Tempe Marketplace, and some of your mixed-use districts are like new development that has occurred around the Town Lake area, like Watermark and the 100 Mill Brewery, which is allowed to have live music by right. The use permit application process, if it's required for commercial industrial districts, requires a formal application, filing with the Community Development Department. They typically submit a letter of explanation, have a floor plan layout, and identifying where the desired type of entertainment uses are proposed on the site. There's an application filing fee, currently $1,671, and this is a one-time fee that allows them to do reoccurring live entertainment on the business site, which can be transferred to future businesses that take up that site. It's approximately a 5 to 7 week process. There's a public hearing notice, 15-day hearing notice provides posting of the site, notices to property owners within the area, an opportunity to hear the requests at the Development Review Commission. There's opportunity for public to provide input and comments on it, and then ultimately decisions made on that request. Currently, right now, live entertainment in Tempe and the downtown area, we have had 18 active use permits for live entertainment. Also citywide, a total of 42 live entertainment use permits have been issued. In the past, we have had supports for streamlining and supporting the live music process. I'll try to get to the next slide. There we go. Past live music incentives in 2015-16, we couldn't figure out which year that was, but we initially had offered a 2-month period where we waived the application fees. This was specific to the downtown district for use permits, and we had about a dozen applications that came in that we processed and had to go through the hearing process. And then again in 2018, City Council offered another resolution that offered a citywide discount for use permits. There was a $200 fee and a 3-month period that basically They were able to make that application and then go through the hearing process. The $200 fee basically covered the standard cost for legal advertisement and posting of the site. I'll be happy to get any questions or comments and direction from the council, but those are the types of incentives that we have offered in the past for live music.
Councilman Navarro?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, everyone. I brought this up again, and thank you, Ryan, for the presentation and just the feedback and history behind this. As Ryan has said, back in 2016 approximately, we really started putting a push for downtown Tempe to have another surge of live music from the days back in the 80s, so to speak. We knew that during that time, we brought bands out of the woodworks from the Gin Blossoms to Dead Out Workshop, a number, Pistoleros, I mean, keep on going, to even today with the new music that's coming out. So we wanted to really embrace the culture of live music, and that was the whole incentive. And from that, we did actually, as Ryan stated, increased our number of bars, restaurants to provide that service. COVID hit, everything takes a pause. You know, this is still something that's near and dear to my heart because I think it's the culture of Tempe, because I think it's the culture of downtown, but I also think it's citywide. We're seeing now in South Tempe venues opening up with sharing live music. Boondocks that just opened up on Broadway, great little stage of live music, great turnout, and it's one of those things that I think it adds value to our city. It adds value to what we stand for. The concerts we put on at Tempe Town Lake, I think it shows that this is a destination just like Austin or Nashville, although we're not probably at their size yet, but it is a destination that we want to build on. And I'm presenting this, and I asked to have this presented because I want the council to look at what we've done in the past. We've, on various occasions, we waived it for free. We waived it to cover the cost of those minimal advertising costs for that live music. And I'm open to either one of those ideas to going forward for maybe even a short period of time, maybe in different spurts, or maybe we have to revisit this or we open up for a longer period of time. And I'm interested to see what the council might say on this. But I want to say first all that I think this is important. I think this is important to Tempe, and it's important to the culture of what we provide here in the city, and love to hear your thoughts.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is an issue that's important to me as well. Councilmember Navarro and I forget who the third was on that working group when we originally knocked the fees back a couple years ago. I forget who the third person was, but Councilman Navarro was definitely there. That I remember. So I fully support any effort to increase live music in the city of Tempe. The mayor and I, and maybe another council member, I don't know if you guys were there, we got to attend Park Cardone's Celebration of Life, and you walked into that parking lot, you knew exactly how big live music was in Tempe. In fact, it was probably the largest crowd I've ever been in front of. So, Tempe has a long history of supporting live music. We did a pilot, a couple of years ago that has since ended. I don't see a specific ask for a policy, but rather a discussion. I would be in favor of waiving the fees in their entirety, let's say for a year, and see how it goes. If we want to if that's not it, I mean, whatever the committee wants to do as far as reduction of the fees for whatever length of time they want to do it, I would be in favor of. Thank you, Mayor.
Sounds good. Thank you. Councilmember Garland?
I agree. I am in complete support of encouraging more music in the city of Tempe. I love hopping around and listening to different bands or just somebody just playing on guitar and singing. So I would be in support, as Councilmember Keating said, on whatever we want to do moving forward, because I think it's a really good idea for us to encourage as much as we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Councilmember Hodge.
I am also in agreement. I think that this is great. I love the live music downtown. And anything we can do to enhance it by waiving the fees, I'm all for it too. So I'm excited.
Sounds good. Thank you. Vice Mayor Adams.
Yes, I'm completely supportive of live music also, and whatever we can do to make it easier for people, the more the better. So thank you so much, Ryan, for your presentation.
Thank you. Just as a quick note, I just got word from the clerk's office that Mayor Mitchell was the third member of that group with you both.
Shout out Mayor Mitchell.
Exactly. Shout out. There we go. Councilman Navarro.
There you are, Mark. I missed you. No, I just want to say, a year sounds reasonable. I think, whatever staff recommends with knocking down that fee considerably to $200, or if we can waive it, which, just makes it, I think 200 does even make it enticing to, hey, I'll go for the live music too, if that what helps with some of those costs. I think that, just to add on, we're doing the second Sundays now in downtown Tempe. What a great spot to really let those restaurants extend out with some live music for a great day when you have just a mixed bag of different people from all across the valley. I think it's an opportunity. Also, with our growth that we're having within the downtown area and expanding across and around the lake, I think it just gives us a year of kind of seeing what is transpiring and giving that opportunity up.
Sounds good. Thank you. I just had one question, actually. This is not me saying that I'm not in support of this at all. I actually do support it. But I was going to ask about just a general idea, Ryan, or perhaps finance staff, about the financial hit to the city, only because we had conversations earlier about some of the things going through the legislature right now in terms of, food tax issues, residential rental, and the hits that would have to our general fund budget. So I just want to find out. I assume it's probably not a massive number in terms of what we're collecting, but at the same time, I kind of want to know just to make sure that I have that information.
Sure, Mayor, I think it's appropriate that if we had something similar to the previous time, we had a waiver reduction of $200 to cover those general expenses that include public hearing, advertising, and posting of the site. That should also help too in just making sure that a business does want to come forward, that they're committed to wanting to propose live entertainment, rather than just getting the use permit and maybe not using it.
Yeah. No, that sounds good to me. And also, it would give us some time too, because I would just love to have a sense as to when it comes, how much, with all of these things, if certain things happen to go away, that's obviously going to be a certain hit to our general fund budget. I suspect this isn't a very big item in terms of, I don't know if we would have all of a sudden a ton of additional restaurants and bars who'd want to do live music, but we might. And I just want to have a sense as to how much money that might be. But at the same time, that's really just for my kind of edification and also just for public transparency purposes. But at the same time, I completely concur with what everyone is saying up here. I know that, Councilmember Keating and I had a lot of conversation around the Paul Cardone concert. And right, it was packed over at the Yucca Tap Room over at Donnell Plaza. And one of the things that people came up to me and said actually, there were a ton of people. I can't count the number of folks who pulled me aside and said, hey, just wanted to let you know, just thank you and the entire council for your support of live music in the city of Tempe. This is really who we are. It's really kind of, it's in our fabric, it's in our DNA as a community to have events like this one. And we just hope we can continue to have live music events like this here and in other parts of the city of Tempe. So it definitely is something I wanted to pass along to the council in this very public setting, and just definitely to concur with Councilmember Keating about the size of that crowd. It was a pretty massive group. So yeah, just, would love that information. Ryan, appreciate the, kind of the game plan you kind of laid out about how this would have to be done. But no, I'm in support of what my colleagues have all said. So.
Thank you, Mayor. And we'll certainly monitor how many use permits come in and provide updates on that. So our next step, once we get consensus from you all, is to come back and bring forward a resolution that would allow the time period allowed for the waiver of a reduction in the fees and the time permit where someone can make an application. And we'll probably work with our local businesses, Chamber of Commerce, to make sure we can get outreach about this opportunity.
Sounds good. Everybody, any other further comments or questions for Ryan? Wonderful. You've got consensus. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Next up is call to the audience for the committee of the whole items. There is only one item ready for city council direction, but I should ask, is there anyone in the audience first who'd like to address the council on any of these upcoming items? Seeing none, I will move forward to item 5A, items ready for city council direction or status update. That leads us to item number 5A1, which is request for approval of Sustainability and Economic Vitality Council Committee fiscal year 2023-24 work plan. I know that's Vice Mayor Adams and Councilmember Chin. Let's see. Is there anything that you'd like to update us on?
Yes, just a few things. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. With city staff input, Councilmember Chin and I developed our fiscal year 2023 and 2024 SEV committee work plan, so it reflects both what we want to see get done in these issue areas and initiatives some of our city departments want to work on as well. So we're partnering with our city staff and getting things done. As you can see from this slide, our work plan reflects performance measurements under both sustainable growth and development and financial stability and vitality. On the next slide, you'll see some of the projects we want to highlight in the 2023 and 2024 fiscal years. It's a good mix of council priorities and programs our city staff are hoping to push forward. So there's the list. I'm really excited about the cool pavement. I'm excited about all of them, actually. On the cool pavement, we're going to start a pilot program with that, like City of Phoenix did, and paint the pavement so it lowers the temperature by well over 10 degrees. So we're excited about that. We've already started to work on a few of them, and hopefully we'll be able to bring some of these to a future work study session meeting sooner rather than later. Any thoughts, Councilmember Chin?
Doesn't sound like council. Okay, I'll ask one. Councilmember Chin, any thoughts on item 5A1?
Thank you, Mayor. We did have a meeting yesterday. I don't know if you wanted an update from that.
I think we could probably take that under item 5B, which is updates as needed on committees.
Sure. I'll wait then.
Okay,
But
sounds good.
nothing else on this one.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Appreciate it. Vice Mayor Adams, anything else?
Yes, so unless anyone has any further questions, I'd like to ask for council consensus on the FY 2023-2024 SEV committee work plan.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes? All right. Sounds good. Looks like we have consensus to move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. That brings us to item 5B, council committees in progress, updates as needed. We have items 5B1, human services and community safety, 5B2, sustainability and economic vitality, and item 5B3, workforce readiness and livable communities. I know the Councilmember Chin said she had an update she wanted to do on 5B2, but do council members want to give any updates on item 5B1 before I move forward? No? Seeing none, I will turn back then to Councilmember Chin for item 5B2, an update on the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a great meeting, great discussion yesterday with those who attended. We had updates from both economic development and engineering yesterday. In fact, there was great, robust discussion on the Mill Avenue streetscape and the other downtown streetscape projects that I thought I would bring to the council tonight. We were all mindful that this is a priority project for mayor and council, and the work intersects with the work of several other city departments and staff, and also important to many of our community stakeholders. So we had a great discussion about the implementation and timelines associated, and we were reassured by staff that they would work with the city manager to assess the timelines and would accelerate where possible and would keep us updates on both the timelines and progress of the individual projects. And once we get those updates on the timelines, then we will be happy to share with council. We'll bring that back.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Councilmember Chin. I know that it's my understanding that Andrew our city manager, was going to meet with staff regarding this. Andrew, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams and Councilmember Chin, members of council. We did have our Deputy City Manager, Keith Burke, and I actually met with staff today and had a really good discussion about, as Councilmember Chin referenced, both the Mill Avenue Streetscape project as well as the Fifth Street Streetscape project. That's not easy to say. And because they are happening fairly concurrently in time, and they're both going to have, once they're completed, a significant impact on the look and the feel and the overall quality of the downtown. So we discussed a number of strategies today as to how we can continue to kind of move this forward and make this even more of a priority for staff. They're going to go back and give us some feedback as to some of the suggestions we had. It was a really good, robust discussion pursuant to the conversation I know you had at your committee yesterday. So we are actively working on that and look forward to reporting back to your committee in February.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you.
I'm all good.
Thank you. I just had a quick question on that front, too. I was wondering if there's any way, I know there's going to be, I don't know exactly when the next Sustainability and Economic Vitality Council Committee is, but I'm wondering if there's some way that the council could have an update after they get their update first. I want to make sure that I'm giving deference to Councilmember Chin and Vice Mayor Adams. But I was even wondering potentially for, I think we have our next work study session in February for February 23rd, I believe, potentially. And I'm just wondering, only because this is such a high-profile issue that I just want to make sure that we're all kind of staying on top of it. I know that when this presentation was given, I believe towards the end of August back in 2022, every person up here said, hey, look, whatever we can do to really accelerate this, that would be good. And one of the concerns that I have too is that I know that there's a lot of recruitment being done for new restaurants, new bars, new retail establishments on Downtown Mill. And just from a timing standpoint, my biggest issue would be I want to make sure that as people begin to sign up to come here to the downtown, that they're not signing up to be here for a long-term lease, doing a lot of tenant improvements on their property, and then immediately afterwards having the street ripped up for a whole bunch of other things, which is going to greatly hamper their ability to be successful on Mill Avenue. So from my perspective, it just seems more important that the streetscape go first as best we can and as much as we can accelerate it to make sure that a lot of that infrastructure work is done prior to a lot of folks signing up to be long-term tenants and be a fixture of our downtown for many years to come. So that's just sort of my statement on that. But I just wanted to know, I should ask Vice Mayor Adams and Councilmember Chin, do you think that might be okay with you if we have an update for the body as a whole after you get your committee update first?
I think that would be great.
Mr. Mayor, I do too. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I know it's a very high priority for this council so to make these improvements. So as we've stated.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. City Manager, that good with you? So like maybe February 23rd, we'll schedule that for issue review?
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, 5B3, Workforce Readiness Livable Communities. Any update for that committee? Nope, all good. All right. Next item on the agenda that is future agenda items. Council members may request that an agenda item be added to a future issue review session. In accordance with the open meeting law, there should be no discussion on the item other than to clarify the request. Would any council members like to add an agenda item for a future issue review session? I guess I kind of already did that.
I was going to add that in there.
All right. Hearing none, we've already done item number 7, which takes us to item number 8, which is adjournment. We are adjourned at 5:26 p.m. The next scheduled work study session is on February 9th, 2023. We are adjourned.